I recently stumbled across an image of the Golden Gate Bridge. I'm sure you can conjure that in your mind, right? Who's seen the Golden Gate Bridge? Anybody been on it? Yeah, I know. Good. Anyway, turns out it's a remarkable engineering feat to have constructed that, particularly when it was constructed, which was during the Depression, when everything was scarce and everything was hard. And it turns out that bridge spans a very dangerous waterway in this country, where the San Francisco Bay meets the Pacific Ocean, on land that is constantly seismic shifting under a blanket of fog and high winds. And as I looked upon this image, the Simon and Garfunkel song jumped to mind. Like a bridge over troubled waters. Zach got nervous at the early service that I'd begin to sing it. Anyway, it starts like this. When you're weary and feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I'm on your side. When times get rough and friends just can't be found, like a bridge over troubled waters, I will lay me down. Since that photo of the Golden Gate Bridge, I've went back and listened to the Simon and Garfunkel song a couple of times. And I was struck by the ending where it crescendos with the words, I will ease your mind like a bridge over troubled waters. I will ease your mind. Troubled waters, a bridge, easing one's mind. We meet these themes in the words of the Old Testament prophet Isaiah today, as he implores his hearers to be restorers of the breach, because there's something divided. There's something broken. There's something that needs to be reached across to be overcome. And Isaiah sees it. He experiences it. And he implores his people to be restorers of the breach. And what was broken then is still broken. The cracks are on the inside. They're deep. They're old. We have something broken within us. Maybe that's why there's always been something broken in society in the days of Isaiah and today. Because we have something broken within us that gets played out by the world in which we live. But here's what the Christian life teaches us. The solution for what is broken on the inside is the same solution for what is broken on the outside. It is love, agape love, Jesus love. This is the love that eases the mind. It's the bridge over troubled waters, as Simon and Garfunkel remind us. The season of Lent begins today with Ash Wednesday. And it is no surprise that today we meet the words of Isaiah, which call us to restore the breach, to fix what is broken in the world around us by looking hard at what is broken within us. It begins by noticing people. Isaiah says it this way: do not hide yourself from your kin. And we might assert we don't. Right? I mean, I talk to my sister. I answer my parents' telephone calls, right? I call my kids. But the kin spoken of by Isaiah casts a much more inclusive net. I'll give you an example. I was returning from an Episcopal Parish Network board meeting in Kansas City this past Wednesday, a week ago. It was a quick trip. Oddly, That kind of travel for me can really feel like a retreat. Because even while I'm in the midst of a lot of people, it feels remarkably solitary, as everyone around me is intent on just getting from point A to point B. I'm not of particular concern to anyone along the way. I'm a cog on the conveyor belt that moves people, right? The industry of moving people from one point to another. And so while everyone was around, no one was really there. And that is until I started noticing my kin. You see, in the background, almost indistinguishable from the chairs and the counters and the drinking fountains, there are people working there. There are people sweeping the floors. There are people pushing people in the wheelchairs. There are people driving those carts. Ding, 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 right? There's people watching over the automatic checkout counters. There are people cleaning the bathrooms. And no one had any personal vested interest in being in relationship with those background people. I didn't. I'd never see them again, right? I didn't have to know their names, didn't need to understand the stories of their lives when I'm just moving from point A to point B. And yet, they were also a gift for a moment in time. Not only because they are my kin, because they're souls made by God and beloved by God, but more so as partners with which to practice restoring the breach. Kindness is the bridge. Kindness is the antidote that mitigates the brokenness on the inside as it plays out in the world on the outside. Kindness extended to others changes something on our insides, breaching the chasm of brokenness that we carry around with us. Kindness is healing. Kindness fills that hole. Kindness is an action of agape love. Isaiah describes kindness like watering a garden, which begins by noticing where people are planted. The water's poured out with words of gratitude. Thank you for pushing me in that chair. Thank you for sweeping up the floor. Thank you for the wonderful foam design on the top of my cappuccino. See, kindness is love poured out with a smile, or maybe just eye contact and a nod of the head. Acknowledging the other in the place where they are planted is easing to the mind, both their mind and our minds as well. To be grateful to them in the moment honors the activity, and in doing so values their personhood in the place where God has planted them. It's kindness to meet someone in the moment and to acknowledge who they are and what they are doing and giving them words of gratitude. It helps heal the breach on the inside, their inside, and our inside, making the outside a better place, a kinder world. You with me? Now we get that. But one thing that I find interesting when I stumble upon it is that science also reinforces God's implicit design within the kingdom of God. I'll give you an example because I stumbled across a study published in 2004 by a woman named Ann Maston, which documented how everyday positive interactions between adults and children, even if the adult's on the periphery of that child's life, like a bus driver or somebody serving at a food line or maybe a church usher, helps a child develop confidence, security, and hope. So Maston's conclusion was that small acts of kindness and encouragement act as a protective factor against stress and anxiety, like a bridge over troubled waters. And what we also know is that when we act with kindness, we feel better. Isn't that right? We feel better. When we act with kindness, a little bit of what is broken on our insides gets healed. It gets mended. Another bucket of love, if you will, gets poured into the breach. And we are better, and the person we engage is better, and the world is a little bit better. Isaiah puts it this way: if you remove the yoke from among you, the pointing of the finger, the speaking of evil, if you offer your food to the hungry and satisfy the needs of the afflicted, then your light shall rise in the darkness. And so my invitation to you this Lent is to take on the practice of kindness, in addition to the other things you are going to take on. Take on the practice of kindness, intentional, regular kindness, particularly in places where it can be employed towards people who you could just as easily overlook. Remember, they are your kin because they are beloved children of God. You're called to be repairers of the breach, to be restorers of the streets that we live in. Let the kindness of agape love be the bridge you build over troubled waters.